Welcome to Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I'm your host, Allison Preisinger-Higgins. Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories is a podcast exploring society, culture, and current events through conversation. We aspire to create an open, respectful, and equitable space where guests may feel free to share their truth and lived experiences. Our core values are rooted in community, connection, and personal development. Stories help us learn, relate, and grow. We are here to listen, to take notice. Thank you for being with us. I would like to acknowledge the land on which this episode was created. I would like to show gratitude to the traditional ancestral land of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish people past and present. Land acknowledgement statements are an important part of honoring those whose land we now live and work on. We begin each episode this way to help spark ideas and keep these conversations in the front of our minds so that we may continue to be open to doing better. I encourage listeners to research the land on which you live and are listening right now. Recognizing this is just the beginning. Some additional next steps to consider would be to seek out the stories of Native people from our shared history and today. Spend time asking yourself difficult questions and challenging norms that may be linked to colonialism. Engage in your community around topics like land tax, curriculum, hiring practices, decision-making, organizing, and reparations. Seek out media created by Native people. The more you explore, challenge, and learn, the more questions may arise. But this is how we grow and connect. Thank you for joining us for Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I'm excited to share my conversation with Marie Lemelle. Marie and I had a wonderful chat discussing the many hats she wears as a publicist, producer, author, and creator. A little bit more about Marie. Marie Lemelle champions the philosophy of transform your goals into greatness through her transformational branding, marketing, and public relations expertise. She's CEO and founder of Platinum Star Public Relations and Platinum Star Media Group, which is an entertainment and talent management company. She has spearheaded a progressive platform of empowerment for women and vulnerable, underserved communities throughout her career. Marie has a couple of books on the horizon and was a part of bringing the film Flint Tale to life, which you will hear more about in this episode. Links to all of the places you can find her work are in the show notes, and be sure to follow and support her at Platinum Star Public Relations. Thank you for being with us, and please enjoy my conversation with Marie Lemelle. Well, Marie, thanks for joining me on Take Notice. It's great to connect with you. We were just talking about where we are in the world, and I'm in Seattle where it's 50-ish, and you're in the LA area where it's 80. So that sounds a lot nicer.
Yes, it is. It is. No complaints.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you for having me.
Yeah. How are you? What's been happening?
Everything's been good. I mean, considering what the world has gone through and continue to navigate through, things are really going well. I'm just happy to be healthy and be able to see family and friends at a distance, and just have a better outlook on 2022. I mean, we're just like barely getting into the year, and I feel like I'm exhausted already.
Oh, yeah.
So,
right.
Which is kind of a good thing. Everyone went through a period of, there wasn't much to do and people were entertaining themselves in interesting ways. But I was fortunate to be able to actually work on a feature film during COVID. And it is called Social Disturbance.
Oh, okay.
And it's about a woman that is basically isolating herself, but she entertains herself with ordering packages from everywhere. And I think a lot of people can be guilty of that. But she also has a sinister side, a dark side.
Uh-huh.
It is on Amazon Prime, Tubi, and Fox Soul. And that was quite an experience because as a COVID-19 compliant officer, I wear that hat as well. But I did that partly as a pivot for my business. Because if we're going to still do productions, whether it's a music video, TV series, movie, or commercials, you need to make sure it's a healthy set. So putting that in place and keeping the cast members to a minimum, we were able to successfully get through a feature film with no one being sick, no production shutdown. And it turned out to be a really, really fun movie and interesting for the fan base, starring Liana Mendoza and who is also one of my producing partners. And so we are taking BIPOC content to the next level. We're working with creators as ourselves. We ourselves are creators as well, to bring onto the platform Dame Dash Studios, who has decided to give millennials, BIPOC millennials, another platform to get their product out there, which is not easy to do. So Social Disturbance is the first one that I'm a producer on. Liana is also an executive producer and the leading actress. And we're bringing more to different platforms as a producing partnership, and a lot focused on the LGBTQ community, because we feel everybody has to have a voice. I mean, we learned through COVID about amplifying voices, which is what I love about your show, Allison. You know, you're amplifying voices that typically, you know, it's hard to hear them because they're in different parts of the world. We move in different circles, but we are working now with an awesome series called Conframa, which is about two men who are navigating through their love life. And a lot of it's based on true events. So it's funny, it's dramatic, but it's also, there's, you know, trauma, drama, you know, all of that going on. And it just gives an insight of other people's life. And, you know, just, you know, we're all the same, but different, but in a way that we should embrace those differences and be able to accept whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is you're doing, because we're all, in the bottom line, we're all humans. So that's part of how I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We're all individuals and unique, but we're all connected in many ways, and to celebrate each of our differences is key. Yeah, and that sounds like amazing projects that you're doing. And I was looking at some of the stuff that you shared with me from your website, which we'll talk about more later, but you have so many hats. It seems, I don't know how you have the time to sit and chat with me even. It's pretty awesome. So thank you. So
Well, you're important to chat
I
with,
appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. I'm really appreciative of everyone that's joined me on this project and podcast. So it's really awesome. And so you are currently in California. I'm curious, where did you grow up and who were you surrounded by growing up?
Well, I am a true native of Southern California.
Okay.
And if you ever come to California, you'll find out most people are from somewhere else, but born and raised here. So my parents came from the South, Louisiana. They
Mhm.
moved to the West, which so many have. People decided to go either north, east, or west. And thank God they went west, because the weather here is just fantastic. We are an hour drive to the mountains so we can see snow, less than an hour to the beach, so the sand and the sunshine, and we have lakes and rivers, and it just gives us a really great sense of the seasons, whether we actually see them on the trees or not.
Mhm.
We do get to enjoy that, which is great. And we're close to a desert too, because Vegas is
Okay.
only a few hours away, and that's right in the middle of a desert. But that's where I grew up. I grew up in the suburb outside of Los Angeles, West Covina, San Gabriel Valley. It wasn't quite diverse. It was very few Black families or people of color living there at the time that we moved there. But it was a great experience. I met people from all walks of life, and that prepared me for college. When I went to the first college I went to was a state college, California State University, Los Angeles, and it was more considered a transient, I guess you could say, college, because people from all over the world went there, and there was no dormitory. There wasn't like on campus living, so you lived off campus.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a great way to kind of round my life. And because of that, I only stayed for 2 years, had a 4-year scholarship, and then I got an opportunity to travel. I was part of a pro boxing team as a publicist, just right out of, fresh out of, I guess, a second year of college. I worked with a record label that were ran by a Filipino group, young folks. We were all around the same age, and we traveled to Europe and promoted their music groups. So I had a chance to really, I'm a talker, as you can probably tell. So that kind of helped with sort of the foundation of starting a career in public relations without the formal training. I had writing training, but not necessarily PR. And that just kind of sort of came naturally. So I ended up going back to college and graduated UCLA and the University of Laverne with an MBA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds like an exciting trajectory to be able to go straight, even just 2 years into college, straight to traveling and being a part of industries that sound pretty exciting. Pro boxing. I don't know anything about pro boxing really. So, and you were doing the PR for that and the music, the record label at the same time. Is that what you're doing?
Not at the same time.
Okay.
Not at the same time. Actually, the music came first, and
Okay.
and then the pro boxing opportunity. My brother-in-law became a boxing promoter. He was in a Wall Street trader for many, many years, and then decided to get into that. And he brought me on initially as VP of operations because of my savviness with business, and then it just kind of morphed into investor relations, then public relations. I've always been interested in sports and watching sports. And I didn't know everything about boxing, but then that's when you find mentors already in the field. And then I had the great opportunity to learn and work alongside a icon in the boxing world. He was already retired at that time, but his autobiography had been written by my mentor, Marilyn Duro. And then as we were traveling the world with boxing shows, we also promoted his book. And his name is Archie the Old Mongoose Moore. And he has a record that no one's going to beat because they don't fight as often as they did back in his era, because he has well over 130 fights and almost as many knockouts on record. So it was being young, being open, being impressionable, and just excited about life and not being in class every day. It was a fun time, and I got a chance to meet people all over Europe and different parts of the world. It really helped shape my mindset about people. I never looked at people in color, and you really kind of get more exposed to that once you're in the States more. You notice it much more than you do traveling. I've been to different countries in Africa, and it's a whole different outlook, of just how people connect. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's much more relaxed, respectful. Most of the time people are more argumentative or controversial when it comes to religion as opposed to color of your skin, which is quite interesting.
Right. That makes sense. And think about that. The religion would be the more hot topic. And in the African countries that you were in, or in other places as well, did you find that?
Basically, more the, I would say, European side, because
Okay.
religion is not that, I don't think it's as big of a concern as far as not getting along, because you have a big mix there with Christian and Muslim and Catholic, and you have a big melting pot of religion in Africa, as you do in America.
Mm-hmm.
But America and Europe, I mean, as you know, most wars have been based on, especially back in the day, medieval days, it's religion,
right?
And so, and that's why they, the word, the advice is, if you don't want to have a fight at the dinner table during Thanksgiving, don't bring in politics or religion.
Right.
So it is one of those things that you just don't. To me, it doesn't matter what people believe, as long as they have some sort of belief. Because when you don't believe in anything, then that makes you kind of a loose cannon, as far as I'm concerned. Because then, what do you stand for? What do you have? Do you have any foundation whatsoever of how a guiding light, a guiding principle of how you navigate with other people? Because the differences are there. There's no two ways about it. Even in your own, your own race, your own nationality, your own age group, there's going to be conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious, in your experiences in different countries, you said it's a little more relaxed. Was that more of a relaxed feeling for you, or so you felt a little more comfortable in different areas or different countries, or just kind of in general, the feel around race felt more relaxed, would you say?
I would say both. When the first time I went to Africa, and I want to say 2005, it really felt almost like a homecoming, even though my ancestors did not necessarily come from Africa. My cousin did a trace back to the 1400s, and it was more Europe,
Oh, okay.
Italy, France. My grandparents on my father's parents only spoke French. They didn't speak English, very little English. I mean, they settled in Louisiana, and as you know, Louisiana was a lot of French went there, and that's what really caused the Creole race to emerge, because
Mm-hmm.
you had the Spanish, you had white, you had black, and you had Indian, and they intermingled,
Mm-hmm.
and so that came up with the Creole or Cajun race or group, and that's why you see so many different hues of color in the Black race, and it's because of the mixtures.
Right.
So when I went to Africa, it felt very warm. It felt people were happy with hardly anything. When we complain about, oh, I need to have my new iPhone. I don't even have an iPhone. I have Android, so I'm going to confess. But it's a whole different mindset. Their work
Mm-hmm.
ethics are there. I mean, people want to say things about Africa because they don't know it. They don't know what it's like there, but they eat very healthy, fresh. We inject, all our animals with hormones and other crazy stuff. And, they don't do that. I mean, everything is very natural. And I really like that. I think that there's more interracial mix, especially in Europe, than even here, where it's not, no one's staring at them like, oh, it's just countries that kind of merge and they find love, and, it is what it is, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a kind of a bigger deal in America, and it really shouldn't be. It's really about whatever works for you, no matter what the gender is or what the color is or the religion is. You just try to find a happy medium. That kind of takes me to a play, that my first play that I co-wrote with. I brought in a writer to help me out with it. It's called Kwanzaa, a celebration of unity. It came out this past Kwanzaa, which is 2021. Kwanzaa begins the day after Christmas and ends on the 1st of January every year. It's been around since the 60s, founded by Dr. Malana Karenga here from Los Angeles. Well, he made his home here, but he founded that after the civil rights riots, or, that happened in Los Angeles in the 60s, to bring about principles, guiding principles to really for Black people, but it really extends to anyone that just wants to make adjustments to their life to have a happier, more harmonious lifestyle. So there's 7 principles, and unity is the first one. So it's something that we are revamping every year. So it's going to be presented and produced by the Roby Theater Company in Los Angeles. And that was co-founded by Ben Guillory and award-winning actor Danny Glover. So that's my contribution to hopefully bring message to around the world that, if religion is not your thing, find some guiding principles that you can incorporate in your life that will help you connect better with people that don't look like you, don't think like you, don't talk like you, and don't live the way you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful. I saw that project, but I wasn't sure entirely what it was. So it just started last year in the last Kwanzaa?
The play was presented last year,
Okay.
but Kwanzaa itself,
Right.
it's a celebration that is 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
You can almost say sort of like, I guess, Hanukkah, or what is the other one that has the light candles?
Yeah. I know in
Advent.
Catholicism. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Advent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you light a candle every day of Kwanzaa, and it has it stands for a different principle, but that's been in existence since the 60s.
Right. Yeah. And then your
Yes.
play just started last year, and then
Yes, last year we were
Uh-huh.
fortunate to be commissioned
That's wonderful.
for that. We were chosen. We submitted a scene amongst other people, other playwrights, and they liked the direction of that, and we were chosen to write it into a full play, which was quite an honor and unexpected. I was asked, did I have any clients that had written anything about Kwanzaa, because I do represent actors, writers, directors, producers, musicians. I asked them, and no one, even the spoken word artists, do you have anything about Kwanzaa? And they didn't. So I thought about it. I said, I could write a story about that because I met Dr. Karenga many years ago, back in the late or the mid 2000s. And I always admired what he established and what he did and what he stood for or still stands for. He's still alive. He's a professor at one of the colleges here in California. And I said, I can come up with something. And I did. And it worked. And I was just in shock when I got the call. But here it is. And I am very happy about it. And it is available to watch on YouTube. Now, mind you, it's going to change a little every year.
Right.
So don't feel like, I've seen it already. No.
Yeah.
We want you to come back every year and be a part of the Roby Theater community. So I'll provide all of those links later.
Yeah, that's perfect. I would love to see that and share that. That's really an awesome idea that it's going to change every year. What kind of things do you think you might shift every year for the play? What do you have in mind?
Well, we want to keep it, while Kwanzaa doesn't change as far as its principles and the time of year that's celebrated, just kind of the scenario surrounding the premise of the play. The premise is basically a history teacher, a Black history teacher, has to teach his class virtually because of the pandemic. And in light of the George Floyd murders, he decides to shift his lecture to bring in more civil rights information, and a lot of history that's omitted from our history books, as well as the principles of Kwanzaa, to see if that can be a direction that the students could embrace to help get through these trying times. And by the end of this year, the pandemic probably won't be as significant as it was. So a little shift there. And also it's while George Floyd's murder must always been memorialized in our minds, in our hearts, but there's other things that unfortunately may happen that needs to be sort of addressed as to why it's so important again to think about Kwanzaa as a lifestyle instead of just like any holiday. And again, it's a celebration. It's not a religious celebration. It's just more of a symbolic way of incorporating principles that can only help you and enhance your life.
Right. Yeah. I think that's such a cool idea to make it a living piece of art so you can continue to share it each year in a new way. I think that's really cool.
I like that. I'm going to use that living piece of art. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, aside from what you just shared, did you have anything, any specific story or anything else that you wanted to share before I get to the next question that I have for you?
Well, one of the reasons that we were connected for this particular interview is about a feature film called Flint Tale.
Right.
And I was a producer on that feature film. And that was also a conscious message about Flint, Michigan, and the contaminated water that is still a problem in Flint, Michigan after more than 5 years of the discovery of it. So we were able to tell a narrative story starring Hawthorne James and Erica Peebles, Titus Thorpe, Idris Degas, and I have a little cameo in there only because I was forced to, but
love it.
But it tells a wonderful story about a family that is going through a whole lot of other changes, but how the problem with the water is significant in their life. And it shouldn't be that. And we filmed it on location in Flint. So I went to Flint, met the mayor at the time, and learned so much about how this city outside of Detroit was suffering, and people were getting sick. They were dying, because there's lead in the water. And Michigan has way more lakes than the average state and quality water. But Flint, it was really based on manufactured plant that caused it, and it just never was properly cleaned up. And we were fortunate to be able to talk to people directly affected, and also we had some of the Flint people in the film, which we really wanted to uplift the community because they're struggling not just with the contaminated water, but financially as economically. The jobs have dried up because it was an automotive town, and all of those companies have abandoned the city and its residents. So that's a important piece of my own history in this industry to be a part of a strong storyline, which did get on the list to be eligible for an Oscar. But there's a lot of campaigning that needs to be involved. And, but just being on that list says a lot about just the quality and the impact that it has on America and just people who care about the environment.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Yeah. So when you filmed the Discovery, you said was about 5 years ago. When was the filming? I'm just curious.
We filmed that in 2017 and 18.
Okay.
Yeah, and we finished it in, I would say, we had a sneak preview premiere at the end of 2019. And then right after that, of course, then COVID was the biggest issue. And so we were able to now be connected with Vision Films, who is our distribution company, and it's on Amazon Prime and well, all platforms actually.
Okay.
Except for Netflix, not yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that I'm excited to watch.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had mentioned a few times, you have so many hats. You're doing so many things. What or who was a big influence leading up to your career now, either when you were growing up or while you were going through college? Who or what was a big influence on you? And it can be multiple if you want.
Yeah, well, it definitely. Every stage of life, there's somebody else that comes into your world that gives you let me see what that's about,
Mm-hmm.
Get more involved. Part of my motto is transform goals to greatness. So our goals change constantly, and I think that as you evolve in life, as you age and you get into different chapters of your world, inspirations and influences are going to change. I mean, quite naturally, I grew up in a 2-parent household. So my parents were a big influence just on not being afraid to explore. I mean, sure, they would have preferred a more stable path, meaning a 9-to-5 job, and I did that off and on for a while, but I always was drawn to entrepreneurial opportunities, whether it's my own business or a friend of mine that was an entrepreneur and brought me in. I hate to say this, but I had no problem quitting a job, a very good job, and taking that leap of faith with someone else that had a great goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be a part of it. I mean, I was part of a magazine startup that was way before dating apps swiping left and right. It was a singles magazine called Sophisticated Singles. It was diverse, but it was with photos in there and a code where you didn't have their number, but you can call our like 1-800 number or whatever. And then you put the code in who you want to connect with, you leave a voice message. And so it was kind of, we called it taking the blind out of blind dating. And we went to Washington, matter of fact, the state of Washington, and recruited singles. And we went to quite a few other states, and I was a part of that. And it was so much fun. But if I would not have taken that, let me just not so much conform to what people expect you to do when you go to school, you get out of school, you get the job. Yeah, you can do that. But I was influenced by a lot of different entrepreneurs that had a big idea. And then, just meeting people with all walks of life and seeing what they're doing, they become sort of that aspiration, because you're part of your aspiration. And then I just decided, instead of the corporate America world, because we talk about cyberbullying. Let me tell you something. Corporate America, the bullying happens inside those walls. They don't need the internet to do it, and it's unfortunate that people feel if they're unhappy with life, they want to make somebody else miserable. And I realize that that's not where I need to spend my energy trying to defend myself or because I want to get work done. And the rest of them are saying, oh, let it pile up, because we get paid anyway, whether we finish a project or not. It's just the work ethics was just nuts. Yeah. And so my mind was not settled there. And then I started Platinum Star Public Relations, because people were always asking, how do I market this? How do I brand this? This was long before social media marketing. It was the traditional way of doing outreach and press releases and press conferences and all of those things. And then after a while, I decided to start Platinum Star Media Group, which is the production side, talent management. I was a talent agent for about a year, but I abandoned that because you can't produce. There's some weird, law or restriction. And I want to be part of the whole process from concept, from script to pre-production, production, and post-production, and see it all the way through. And I really enjoy that, being able to be that storyteller, because I'm great on it in writing it out. I've worked with a lot of different publications, but I'd like to see it come to life, and it comes to life when it's on screen. So it was just, any one person. But again, my parents were go-getters. My dad was a go-getter. My mom was a household mom and wife, but her work ethics was also there too, because she always, told us just to show up and do your best, and don't let anybody hold you back from the blessings that belong to you.
What did your dad do when you were growing up?
Well, he was a military veteran, as all of his brothers and my uncles and so many. And they all served for the United States, and all returned home and had families and wonderful lives and close knit. And so when my dad got out of the service, he went to vocational school to learn some different trades. But he was I don't know where he got the drive or the know-how to know the best position he could put his family in is to work for the city of Los Angeles. So he got a job there. He started off working in the animal regulation department, and that was they oversaw the animal shelters, and they wore uniforms that looked like police. So him and his partner they would always say, here's the police coming. Here's free, lunch, and they wanted them to hang around because it looked like law enforcement. Right. They weren't. They didn't carry guns, but they checked on. I mean, at that time, they would check on if your dog had a license, and making sure they got their vaccination. But I don't know all of it, but all I know is as a kid, we only had a different animal every week that he would adopt and bring home. So from guinea pigs to ducks to cats and dogs, and we've always had cats and dogs that had to learn to live together, parakeets. I mean, so I had a big appreciation for animals. And then from there, he continued to take exams. When you work for the city, and that's in any city, you take exams. And he was very good at that. And he ultimately ended up at the Department of Water and Power, and that's our utility company for the greater Los Angeles area. And he was he worked as a water reservoir keeper or supervisor. So all the water reservoirs that are in the city, he monitored them to make sure that, no leaks, no contamination. It was a lot more in depth than I ever really would have known, but he really just rose up the ranks, and he stayed there for about, in the city as a whole, I think 25 plus years, retired early. So he made a life for us that, he was a real estate investor too. Every home that we lived in, we owned it. He kept it. He rented it out. He'd buy another home. So, so that was his other way. And then he played the stocks. How he, but he did that, and he did extremely well. We didn't have to want for anything. So it's a lot to do with wanting to always expand your horizon. And that's where I got my curiosity from. I don't say no to what makes sense. It has given me a diverse career and way of thinking, a true entrepreneurial spirit. I don't say entrepreneur serial or serial entrepreneur. I don't know where that came from. I just don't like that word serial because it thinks of killer,
Sure.
And I'm just like, no. Right. It's just where you constantly evolve, with what you've learned and what feels in your spirit to do. And because I'm, I have two producing partners in different realms, and we produce different types of content, and as well as I have a nonprofit that I work with my business partner, Latanya Potts, and we have a business called The Wedding Angels. And what we do is provide opportunities for people who maybe want to elope or don't have the money to have that extravagant wedding. We want to make it happen.
Oh, oh.
for people that are deserving. So that's something we started late last year, because as you know, a lot of people's weddings were postponed because of COVID. They lost money, and then now they're trying to figure out what do we do. So it's just it's kind of like, I find a need and I try to fill it, in some good way that makes sense so you're not going nuts. But I just have to like commend my father. They're both passed on, both parents, but the legacy of achieving your goals, and make those goals the greatest ever. And that's why I came up with Transform Goals to Greatness, because no matter what you do, small, medium, or large, just, make it blossom to where you can step back and say, okay, I did that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And your nonprofit, that sounds like such a special purpose too. That's really sweet to be able to help people get married. Yeah, because I got married a few years ago. It is not cheap.
Well, congratulations, you did it.
Yeah, right. We made it happen, but man. Well, can you explain to us maybe you already have a good amount, but just all of your different hats that you're currently wearing, plus where we can find anything that you'd like to share that you haven't yet.
The current hats now, definitely the producing, writing, playwright. I have 2 books I'm working on. One is called, for about, I'll say 6 years, right around when my mom got sick, I started writing about health. And I had a weekly column in a newspaper here in Los Angeles Wave. And I did that for several years. I've probably written well over 500. And I realized that the common denominator was that the people I spoke to still had hope and learned to cope with whatever they were going through. And they realized, and I realized too, that no one's really alone in what they're going through, because there's somebody else going through it and maybe even worse. So from A to Z, I've pretty much covered so many diseases and illnesses and disorders. So I decided to put together some of the best stories in a book called I Am Not My Illness, Personal Stories of Inspiration and Hope. It's not out yet. These are things I'm in progress.
That's great.
Because one of I guess the most profound stories I did was about a young man who had the same type of cancer my father passed from. And he went through stem cell therapy. And 5 years later, he's still here.
Oh, wow.
And it was really, I didn't know the complete process, but I found, I do research. When I interview them, I do research. So I got to be quite an expert when it came to many health issues. And so that's going to be coming out. And the second one is called Lights, Camera, Action Plan, How to Survive and Succeed in Hollywood. And that's based on a lot of missteps people make, and misconceptions about how Hollywood works and how to navigate through. So it's not a tell-all, but it's more like a guide, and to hear from people in the industry with their advice and ways to make it through, because it's not easy at all. So that's another project that I'm excited about.
Yeah, both of those seem really interesting and exciting. So many projects. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
And we'll list everything, all of your links and everything, so folks can find you and what you're working on in our show notes and on our website. But is there anything else you wanted to share today? Anything that we missed or that I forgot about?
Oh, I think we'll wait for part 2.
Yeah, I'm up for it. That's great. I always think of questions that I was like, oh, I should have asked that later. There's always so many rabbit holes we can go down, but
I think it's this was a great opportunity to share some things, and hopefully if people find they're curious about more, I'm on Instagram at Platinum Star PR. I'm on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Either if you search Marie Lemelle, Lemelle, you'll find me, and I'm more than happy to answer questions. But you'll find me next time on Take Notice with Allison.
Totally. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Marie, for joining me. I appreciate it and I appreciate your time. And it was wonderful connecting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. And, congratulations on your show, and keep amplifying those voices.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us for Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories. Please subscribe and follow us on social media. We are at Take Notice Podcast. It would really help us out if you could take a couple of minutes to review our podcast. You can do so through your podcast app or by visiting our website. It's takenoticepodcast.org. Thank you for your support. Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories is produced, hosted, and edited by Allison Preisinger Higgins with help from many. Music by Version Big 5 featuring Darius Higgins. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for taking notice.
Smiles